So let's talk about hiring an employee for your business, all right? It's 2021, let's say your business, you started it up, it was just you last year, and this year, 2021, is going to be the year that you're hiring somebody. Now, let's talk about how to legally do that. If you guys want to check out my page, in previous posts, I've talked about the different classifications between a 1099 contractor and an employee. Who are you paying for services that they are giving you? What do they fall under? An employee or 1099 contractor? So go take a look at those videos. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and any other social media platform that you can possibly think of. But anyways, so once you make that classification and you're like, uh-oh, I got an employee. So what do you do next? Let's talk about the right way to do it. Because, this stuff, again, is important. You got to register your business for withholding taxes, and you have to register the employee with the state that you live in, okay? So to start, the first thing that I'll just talk about is, again, registering the employee with the state. In this, for me, I live in Michigan, so the website for that is like mi-newhire.com. Or it's probably not .com, but anyways, it's mi-newhire.gov, or probably what it is. And basically what this does is it registers the employee with the state, and all you have to do, enter the employee's name, address, and their social security number, and then this is what is going to trigger anything related to front of the court payments, so child support, and kind of anything like that. It's basically proving that they're, a register, it's a legit social security number and person that you hired to hire for the state. And then if there is anything related to deductions, maybe you have an employee who's getting their wage garnished from something that happened 5 years ago, okay? You go register them in the state database, and then eventually, if anything like that happens, child support, any type of wage garnishment or anything like that, within about a week or two, you'll probably get a letter in the mail telling you, the employer, what you need to do with this employee's check. And then you need to adjust your payroll withholdings accordingly. So that's the first thing that one does, is registering the employee with your state. Like I said, the website's probably a little bit different for each and every state, but the website for Michigan is mi-newhire. And then let me see, it's mi-newhire.com. That's the URL on it. And I have it labeled as new hire reporting. So get on Google, employee registration, maybe try to search in new hire reporting for your state, go on your state's business website, Google's your friend here. You should be able to figure out, every state's website is different. For me, I don't know, Michigan's is pretty easy, but the first thing you'll want to do when you're hiring an employee is register them with the state through the new hire reporting. And then the next thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to register your business for withholding taxes, okay? So every employer is responsible for withholding the taxes out of the employee's check. So what you're going to want to do, in the state of Michigan, and like I said, this is probably a state-by-state thing. Some states don't have state income tax. So obviously there's no need to register withholding your business for, like in Michigan, we have a state income tax, so one of the things that you have to register your business for is your employee withholding. So basically you just register your business for employee withholding, and that will give you like an account number, and then you'll fill out a form, and then you'll send that in, and it gets you going with the employee withholding for your state income taxes that you can now send into the state government. Basically it just creates like an account, and then you get like an account number, that they give you, and then it matches up with your EIN number, and then you're making your payment, and they can apply it correctly. So once you register your employee with the state, you're going to want to register your business with the state for withholding employees' personal income taxes, okay? So the amount that comes out of their check every time you pay them. Again, you can find this probably on your state's website, somewhere on the business page. Mine's pretty simple, just michigan.gov, and then it's got a tab at the top of the website for businesses, and it's pretty much got everything in there in terms of registering your business with the state for these withholding taxes. And then for your state, another thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set up you're going to want to register your business for state unemployment taxes. Yep, these are two separate things. I know, government bureaucracy, but you're going to want to figure out a way to register your business to pay the employer unemployment taxes for your employee. And again, this is probably different for every state. And actually the rates are different for every businesses, but what you're going to want to do is, just type in your state unemployment business registration. Your state probably has an unemployment site. Unfortunately, a lot of people became a lot familiar with that, but so when you go on the state unemployment site for Michigan, there's typically two tabs. They have one for employees, they have one for employers. You go sit there, click on the employer one, log in there. It's going to say, new business, new registration. Click on the new registration tab, fill out all the information, submit it, and you can do all this stuff online. But I believe in the beginning, until you get your unemployment account set up with the state online, which takes a couple weeks, I believe that you'll just be getting paper correspondence in the mail. So you will need to register your business with the state unemployment office for the state that you live in, and then you'll need to register your business to withhold the employees' state withholding taxes, okay, out of their check. So that's two different registrations that you'll have to do for your business within the state, okay? And then the one that I mentioned previously before that was registering the employee with the state, okay? In terms of an order of doing this, I would register your business first with the state unemployment office, and then register it with the withholding office, and then I would go and register the employee. I don't have any rhyme or reason for that. That just makes logical sense to me, but I'm pretty sure that you could do it either way as long as you have that federal EIN number from the IRS. I don't think it matters which one you did it. That's the order that I just did it in. Was I registered my business first with the employee withholding office, and then I registered my business with the unemployment office, and then I registered the employee with the state. So those are the three things that you're going to need to do with the state. For sure. Everybody has to do that. It's federal law that you register your employees with the state that you live in. You do not have to register the employee that you hire with the federal government. You have to register it with the state that you live in. So there's no registration in terms of the employee that you have to do in terms of federal purposes. Okay, because think about that, bro. If every single business had to register every single employee with the federal government, do you understand, the amount of stuff that would be funneling into the funnel government just related to that? No. So they delegate it to the state level, and then they kind of track it that way. So that is what you will have to do in terms of the state, registering the employee, and then you'll have to register your business with the unemployment office and for business employee withholdings out of their check. And then again, this will depend on your location, but for me, my business is located in Wyoming, Michigan. And the city of Wyoming does not have an income tax, but if you don't know, the city of Wyoming is really close to Grand Rapids, and Grand Rapids has a city income tax. And I also hire people who reside in the city of Grand Rapids. And the city of Grand Rapids has a tax law that says if you are a resident of Grand Rapids, we don't care where you live, we don't care where you make your money, you live in Grand Rapids, we are taxing you on your earned income at the city tax rates. So I had to register my business for the employee withholding with the city of Grand Rapids. So again, it's pretty similar to the employee withholding that you register your business for with the state. This basically just gives you an account. You get an account number, and then you can file the payroll taxes and pay them in accordingly. And for the city of Grand Rapids, I actually do all of that stuff online. which is kind of nice. For some of the stuff on the state, I believe that I do the unemployment stuff online, but for the employee withholding of their personal income taxes, I believe I paper file that. I believe that there is an option to set yourself up an account online, but I just never did it. I don't mind doing the paper form. Printing it out and mailing it isn't that bad. But those are the, what is that, 1, 2, 3, 4 things that you need to do when you are hiring an employee. That's what you'll have to register with, and then from there, you start withholding your payroll taxes accordingly. Like I mentioned, you don't have to register any of your employees with the federal government. So in terms of the federal payroll taxes and federal withholding taxes, those, once you get your employees registered and you're rocking and rolling, operating business, you're processing payroll checks, most of the time you'll be a quarterly filer. This again is individual to the business, depending on how large your payroll is. I would have to say most people fall under the category of quarterly payroll tax filer. And you'll just fill out the proper payroll forms and fill those out accordingly, and send in your payments as such. There's no registration that you have to do with the federal government. So it's all with the state, and you might have to do registration with the city. So those are things that you're going to have to do for your business, in terms of like registering your business with the state and cities, and then registering your employee with the state. So those are some things that you're going to have to do. Now, there's another thing that you're going to have to do in terms of what paperwork you're going to need to fill out. So I'm going to try to remember this off the top of my head. If I don't, I'm going to pause and look over there in my file stuff. Anyways, you're going to need your employee to fill out forms, okay? One form that you have to have them fill out is called an I-9. All right, this basically substantiates their citizenship in the United States. It says that you are a United States citizen who's allowed to work. Now, this form is easily found online. Just search in Google I-9, okay, form, and then you'll probably be directed to a link on IRS.gov. You'll find a PDF version of the I-9, print it off, get it filled out. Excuse me. And each of these forms, they all have instructions in them. It's all pretty user friendly. You just got to be willing to read and put in the time. And if the instructions mention a word that you don't know, Google the definition of that word, figure it out. But anyways, you'll want to file the form I-9, which you can probably find on IRS.gov. And then another thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to have your employee fill out a W-4. So for the I-9, this is a form that you as the employer need to fill out, and you also need to have your employee fill out. So it requires both of you. Actually, I believe all these forms do, but the I-9 requires more information from the employer than the other ones. So you got to have them fill out the I-9. That proves their citizenship and ability to work in the United States. And with that I-9, you do not send it in to anybody. You print it off online, you have them fill it out, you follow the instructions, you do what the instructions say, and then you just file that I-9 form away. File it away. If you get audited, like there's workers' comp audits, that stuff like that happen, or maybe they're you're just getting audited. Something happens and they're taking a look into your hires, okay? They're taking a look into the people that you hire. You're going to need to have that I-9 form. You have to have that I-9 form, okay? It's a must. So get that I-9 form filled out. You don't send it in to anybody. Photocopy it. Get 2 copies. File them away, okay? That'll take care of the I-9. Then what you're going to want to have your employee do is you're going to want to have him fill out the federal W-4. This is basically him showing, or the person showing you, what amounts to withhold from their check in terms of taxes. So the easiest way to explain it is from an employee perspective. So you ever been hired at a new job and you're filling out this form and you're like claiming an exemption? You're claiming 0, 1, or 2, 3, 4, or 5, right? That's basically what you're having them do. That form tells you as the employer how much to withhold from their checks, okay? How much taxes that employee wants withheld from their checks, and you have to listen to that form, okay? If the employee wants to make a change in their withholding, they have to fill out a new form. Anyway, so you want to get the W-4 from the federal government. Again, irs.gov. You can find that right on irs.gov. Print it off, have them fill it out, and then file it away. This is not something you need to send in to anybody. It's just something that you have the employee fill out. You keep it in your employee file, and then it's there. Keep it right next to the I-9, okay? Paperclip them together. And then you'll want to probably have them fill out a withholding form for the state. This is, so in my state, I think it was just called an MIW-4. I want to say it was called an MIW-4. So depending on what your state decides to call it, I don't know, but there is a state W-4, and it does the same thing as the federal W-4. It just is the employee telling you, the employer, how much they want withheld from their check for state income taxes. Federal W-4 is federal income taxes. So those are the forms that you will have to have an employee fill out. That's required by the law. Every employee needs to fill out those forms, and you have to keep them on file. So that is the form I-9, the federal W-4, and the state W-4. There might be a city W-4, but it depends. So those are the things that you are going to want to have them fill out on top of doing all that registration stuff that I talked about for the business and the employee. But the cool thing about those forms is that you don't have to send them to anybody. Make photocopies of them, file them away, call it a day, okay? And get that done, first day that you hired these people. First day, all right? Just get it out of the way, move it along, boom, okay? It's done with. Deal with it. Now we're rolling here. And then, of course, get a liability contract. Establish an agreement between you and the employee that specifies the job, specifies what the employer is liable for, what the employee is liable for. An employment contract, okay? Don't just have nothing. Don't have a verbal agreement. This isn't required, but I would just suggest it. I have one for everybody that I've hired. So that's pretty much the process of hiring an employee. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot. One last thing that you're going to want to do is look up your state workers' comp insurance policies and laws. Again, this is probably different for every single state, but one thing that I had to look up, because I would have to say probably most states have laws requiring employers to have workers' compensation insurance. So I got curious and I started looking into it, and then like for Michigan, I printed off the law right here, again from the state's website. And when you're looking at this stuff, if it's not .gov, don't, you can read it to be informational, but it's not going to get you to where you need to be. Unless it was a link that you clicked on that took you to like a .com from the .gov. But you're going to want .gov stuff here in all of this. But anyways, workers' comp insurance is a requirement in most states for certain employers. So I can read you right here in Michigan. It states, which employers must carry workers' compensation coverage. And this is a or situation. I don't think it is an and situation. And then it lists about 5 different things that require the employer to have workers' comp. The 2 main ones were right at the top that applied to me. Was all private employers regularly employing 1 or more employees 35 hours or more per week for 13 weeks or longer during the preceding 52 weeks. Okay? So if you have one person who works 35 hours a week for 13 weeks straight, you're going to need workers' comp insurance by law. Okay, by law. If that employee goes out there and gets hurt, and you do not have workers' comp insurance, and it turns out that you were supposed to have workers' comp insurance, and this employee tries to sue you, you might be out of business. So that was one of the requirements that required workers' comp insurance. Now let's say you're not going to have one employee working 35 hours or more during the week. This is the part that made me get it, which was all employers regularly employing 3 or more employees at one time. This includes part-time employees. So let's say maybe, your business is only doing 25, 30 hours a week, right? But you've got stuff going on, you're trying to grow, you're trying to shift your focus elsewhere, and you can find one guy who can work 2 days a week, you can find one guy who can work 2 days a week, and then you've got one other guy who maybe just goes in there so you can get out of the job or something along those lines, and you've got 3 guys, part-time employees. You must have workers' comp insurance. So that'll be one last thing that you'll want to look up, is take a look at your state laws regarding workers' comp insurance. Now that, I believe, is about everything that you need to hire an employee. It's not that overwhelming. It will be the first time that you do it, but once you do this stuff initially, it gets pretty easy from there.